finish 1.5, I'm going to talk a little bit about formulas, because often there's a formula that governs the kind of problem that you're doing. So for example, in the last problem that we did, right, with the short blocks and the long blocks, the formula that would have worked is perimeter, right? Perimeter is 2 times length plus 2 times width, right? So we were talking, and the width was the short blocks and the width and the length of the long blocks, right? So we've got several different kinds of formulas, and the book is giving you a few that are quite important actually, and that you are going to need to memorize, though you don't need to memorize them all today. But I'm going to start with the easier one, which if you're curious where I'm looking, I'm on page 30. Instead of starting with temperature, I'm going to start with distance, because this is one of the most important formulas you will ever use. And it's fairly easy. Distance equals rate times time, where distance is distance traveled, as if, if you're in a car. Rate is your speed, basically, right? Rate of speed, usually average speed, and time is time of travel. And that makes sense. How far, this basically means how far you go is determined by how fast you're going and how much time. If you go really, really fast in 5 seconds, you're going to go further in distance than if you're going really, really slow in 5 seconds, right? So your distance is going to be greater. At the same time, if you're going 30 miles per hour for only 1 hour, right, versus 30 miles per hour for 3 hours, again, your distance is going to be greater. So this is a very important formula. Another one is profit. And this is very important for companies, right? Profit, in other words, how much money you keep as a company, right, is I, income, minus expenses. So this means income is how much money you make from your sales, usually, right? It's money you make. And expenses, what you had to spend, right, in order to make that money, right? So that's your profit. That's how much you take home, how much you keep. Another formula is called simple interest. Now we're going to do more with interest later on, and we're going to learn about simple and compound interest. But simple interest, in this case, I means interest, not income. They used I twice, which can be a little confusing because different letters can be applied to different situations. Interest equals PRT. Now here, P meant profit. I'm going to write it here just so you're not confused. Here, similar letters, different meanings, okay? So interest, this P means the principal. Principal, so you got to picture a bank. Principal is the amount of money you put in a bank, right? R is how much interest they give you. It's called the interest rate. In other words, if you put $100 in the bank and the bank has an interest rate of 5%, which it won't, that's a very high interest rate. But if you have an interest rate of 5%, that means the bank will give you $5 for every $100 you put in the bank per year, because the last T is time and is usually measured in years, okay? And then interest, so interest is the amount of money you put in the bank, rate, the interest rate the bank gives you, so, right, per year. So if you put in $100 in the bank, an interest rate of 5%, where they give you $5, in 1 year, you'll have $5 interest. if it's 2 years, you'll have $10 interest, and 3 years, etc., $15 interest, etc. If you put more money in the bank, say you put $1,000 in the bank, the interest rate of 5%, you're going to have $50 back at the end of 1 year, and $100 at the end of 2 years, etc. So this is important interest, and this is very important because you want to know if your money is earning money. The last equation that is important to learn is temperature. And essentially this is how to convert between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So, or centigrade, people can call it both. Celsius temperature is 5/9, and it's just a formula you have to memorize. 5/9, the Fahrenheit temperature minus 32, where F is Fahrenheit degrees. That's a little symbol for degrees, sorry. I use shorthand. And C is degrees Celsius. Okay, so I just wanted to introduce them. I think it's worth doing that. But the problem we're going to do is pretty quick, and it's going to use one of these formulas. All right, last problem, and then we're done with 1.5. Example 3. You're making a leather book cover, and you need a rectangular piece of leather shown. So what am I doing? I'm doing step 1. I'm trying to picture my problem and understand it, right? So step 1, here is my rectangular piece of leather, okay? Find the cost of the piece if leather costs 25 cents per square inch. So what is the cost of my rectangular piece of leather, right? If I know that this costs 25 cents per square inch. Okay. All right. So the book was actually quite helpful. They told you that this is 11 inches and 18 inches, right? And the book is going to go somewhere inside it. Kind of like this. Right. So here's your book, and you're putting the leather on the outside. And they gave you the picture. They made it easy for you. Okay. So what formula is going to govern, right, area? How do you know that we're talking about area, not perimeter? Well, because you're talking about 25 cents per square inch, right? Whenever you're talking about square inch, you're talking about area, right? So we need to know basically what's the area of this rectangle, right? Well, do you know the formula of this rectangle? This is where we're going to do step 2, right? Which is make a plan, an equation. Well, we're going to use a formula for this. Area of a rectangle is length times width, right? Well, they gave me the length and width. My length is 18 and my width is 11. So I know that the area of the leather that I need is going to be 198 square inches. Again, this is what I was given. I was given a drawing that told me I have a rectangular piece of leather, right? And I know that the leather costs 25 cents a square inch. And I was asked, what's the cost of the piece if leather costs 25 cents per square inch? So I figured out the first part. I know how many square inches I need. Well, from there to finding out the cost is easy, right? If I have 198 square inches, and I know for every single one of those square inches, it's 25 cents per square inch for the first, second, all the way up to 198. Then I can multiply that together and find out that I need $49.50 to bind that whole book. All right, that is the end of 1.5, and I would like you to do guided practice 2. It's the only problem I'm asking you to have with the caveat. The caveat is a warning, okay, in Latin. And that means I need to see all your steps written out, okay? And I should label this was step 3, and my look back is just to check that this number makes sense, and it does, because the cost of leather is very expensive. Okay, so make sure that your problem takes up a fair amount of space and goes through each step. I want to see a picture of it. I want to see that you've thought through. I want to see whatever equation that you write down, possibly in words, but at the very least, I need to see that it makes sense based on your picture. I need to see how you've worked it out. And unless it's fairly obvious, I want to see how you look back and you check it. All right. Thank you.